Should be live. All right, here we are. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the WaxFusion Show. I have to mute my other track real quick. All right, I have Ross here with me today from Eosphere. How you doing, Ross?
Good morning. Well, morning for me.
Yeah, so Ross is a block producer on Wax, and I believe EOS as well. I'm not sure what else he does, so we're going to ask him about all that stuff today and find out what exactly he does on Wax, and we'll probably BS about a couple of random topics depending on how much time Ross has. If you don't mind, why don't you just give us a brief introduction of, I guess let's start off with how you got into Wax in the first place.
Okay. Well, yeah, we block producers on EOS and Wax. We also block producers on Telos, Fio, Libra, and we validators for the Power Ledger chain. So how we actually got started was EOS was launched in 2018. So the end of 2017, a group of us actually got together, being involved in the crypto space here in Australia. And we actually formed Eosphere, I think it was in December 2017. And we put together the team that supported and launched the actual EOS mainnet. It started out as being like completely, we're only going to be EOS. That was the way that we're going to be, but it became quite clear that in order for us to run as a business, we need to broaden our horizons rather than having just one revenue stream from EOS. And I think we then stepped out to Telos and started providing services for the Telos network in order to get some more block producers kind of validation income coming in. We actually provide block production is one thing, but we also we do various services for these networks as well, where we provide like full history services and other API type services. So how we actually got onto Wax is we went to there was an event in Washington. It was EOS June, I think the event was called, and that was like in 2019, I think. Was it 2019, Mike? I'm pretty sure it was June 2019, and I actually met one of the Wax founders, Malcolm, who I think he introduced us to, hey, there's this company. They do these things called op skins, where they sell these skins for like Counter-Strike guns, and we're like, oh, that's just so interesting, because we were always about utility. Whenever we could have a blockchain used for kind of like a real world type like deployment, and the idea was like, hey, no, it's going to be games, and they're going to be these NFTs, and they're going to be tradable, and we're going to be binding it through to these assets and Counter-Strike. It was very, very cool. And we actually started running services on Wax before it like launched, and I think it was for like a year or so where we were just running stuff. We weren't actually being remunerated for it. We just like were doing it because it was kind of cool and something on the side. And little did we know that Wax would then take off and become one of the biggest consumers of all of our infrastructure. I mean, out of all of the chains, even now, nothing beats the number of transactions that we see on Wax. And yeah, so on Wax, they don't call them so much block producers as Wax guilds. You have a guild on Wax, right? Which I'm sure you would have. A guild's more, like a group, a collective. On other networks, it typically is called a block producer. But yeah, on Wax now, we provide block production services, but we also provide Atomic Assets API, Hyperion services, which are like full history databases. We provide snapshots and backups of the actual chain itself, community support, and we've built a few tools for it as well.
So you were one of the people who started EOS originally, and you've been around Wax since pretty much the beginning as well.
From the beginning, yeah.
Most of your services, you would probably say, are business to business, or like more for people running actual projects, I guess you would say.
My dad often asks me, he says, who are your customers? And I suppose it's the blockchain thing. Our customers are all the clients that actually use the services on these various networks. I need a haircut. Yeah, so the business to business, sure, we provide services for blockchains, ones that have got like organized businesses, but a lot of these blockchains are sort of run in the wild. They run like sort of open source, led by people in the community. We get remunerated programmatically from the actual network itself. So yeah, so I don't know what maybe it's chain to business, chain to us.
Yeah,
but we obviously have coordinated efforts to get things done with other businesses.
Well, you obviously have public facing services like all the APIs, but I guess I was speaking mostly in terms of I guess you would look at me as like a Wax guild who provides things for small creators or like the average user to do some transaction, whereas yours is probably more focused on somebody who needs access to a service so they can run a project. I don't know if that's incorrect or not, but
no, we do that as well, right? We provide infrastructure and APIs dedicated to businesses if they ask for it. So we do run a few things, but for the most part, it's open for anybody to connect to our infrastructure. And our APIs, we get millions and millions of successful requests a day. So that's where most of the effort is, to just providing available APIs for the public.
And teaching other people how as well, because I know you have all those Medium articles.
Articles.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Ross has a fantastic series of articles on Medium. They've been updated like every month for the past few years. And if you've ever tried to launch your own node or create an API on Wax before and you Googled how, you most likely came across Ross's articles because they're the best ones that are out there, basically. I remember like 3 years ago when I was about to get started on Wax, and I had actually the iMac that I'm streaming on right now. It has like 48 gigabytes of RAM, and I was trying to run like a state history node. I looked up your articles and I realized I was an idiot, but
you're not gonna get far with that.
Yeah. But everything that I won't say everything that I've learned, but like a lot of my starting points and optimizations to my nodes and things like that all came from information that you put out there, which is actually one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show, because I feel like people like you do so much for the community and for the chain, and you kind of go underappreciated because you're not so much of a public facing guy to like small people. Like a lot of like the smaller creators out there might not know about people like you and realize how much you actually do for the network. So yeah, that's kind of the
thanks.
point.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm quite easily contactable on Telegram. Constantly get people pinging me about questions and articles and having other issues. So I think people still, the technical people that are actually trying to deploy like Wax software, they are aware that they can contact me. I suppose the users don't know too much about what goes on in the background, I guess.
Absolutely. And yeah, I see that complaint a lot too, that like, I mean, I don't want to get too much into the drama and whatnot, but a lot of people complain sometimes that guilds are like unreachable and they're like this secret kind of collaboration of people. And
Yeah.
I would say most of them are actually pretty available if you actually go out and search
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah. Easy. Yeah.
But
Wax in particular.
yeah, for sure. So you mentioned that you're a block producer on multiple different chains. You wanted to branch out for reasons of different revenue streams and things like that. That's actually one of the things I want to speak about too. I noticed if the information on blocks is correct for EOS, you're like rank 16 on there. Is that correct?
No, blocks is wrong. We 12, I think.
So how do you see the differences between EOS and Wax in terms of block producer pay? Because I know at the system level, they somewhat sort of work similar, but not really. But there's voter rewards on EOS, right? So block producers are kind of giving away a lot of what they earn. Or
Yeah. Yeah. So the idea is that you have to subscribe, if you call it, to some of the larger proxies where people have staked their, or not, will have. So the big proxies, you as a user would then uh, stake to that proxy or vote for that proxy, and they would then vote for um, other block producers that have subscribed to their proxy. So it's almost like a trading system for votes. So you would have to give away, typically it's about 80% of your reward. So it's kind of like reverse validation rewards. It's the same kind of thing as you would have if you were like on Polkadot and stake to the network and then get paid based on whichever validator you're staking for, except it's a little bit more manual. So people would stake to a proxy and that proxy would vote for you. So there's like maybe about 6 or 7 big groups that have got multiple proxies inside of them. So typically on EOS, you get about 80%. You have to give off for rewards for people that have staked their token. And it kind of works out. It doesn't have that parachute mechanism that Wax has got. So if the price goes down, you're only earning so much EOS a month. But I would say that the rewards for a top 21 block producer are probably in the same realms as Wax on a normal month. It's kind of there and thereabout.
is that
Wax
after you give the 80% away or before?
After.
Okay.
I don't ever see it as you might be earning 1,500 EOS a day, but that's before you've actually paid for it. So you only probably keep about 20% of that.
Include no wants to know how long EOS has been like that. Is that new since they stopped inflation?
I think there was they used to call it voting cartels and stuff in the beginning, and there was like a bad precedent that was set over it. So it's not orchestrated programmatically. It's orchestrated from the groups that run these large proxies. So it kind of happened from the beginning. It was about who to be able to get onto one of these proxies. But now there are groups that are actually run public type proxies. So it started off under the covers, and now it's pretty open. You can go to, like, for instance, the Gen pool. It's like a big pool where you can go, and myself as a user, I can go and stake my tokens and get rewards daily. And myself as our company as a block producer, we go and register ourselves, and we can just pay weekly the percentage of the rewards back to those users that have staked.
One question that I had, I guess, how strict are these proxies? Do they have a certain criteria, sort of like how the OIGs work, or are they just kind of like, if you know us, you know us?
No, there's no OIG. It's more like a transactional type thing. However, there's definitely groups of block producers that know exactly what they're doing. So it isn't like there's just like a sock puppet type thing that's running in the top 21. There was a period of time when there was some of that, but now it's quite an efficient chain. It's quite well organized. The the block production and services are actually pretty good.
The reason
But there's no OIG. Yeah.
The reason that I ask is because you have this sort of weird catch-22 or dilemma, I guess, where if you were to compare EOS to Wax and the way that things work, EOS, I guess you could say, is pretty much decentralized in terms of governance and who's in the top 21 to an extent. And Wax is centralized. You have the Wax team holding a large stake, and then you have the ORGs with a very specific criteria. So you have the sort of drawback of it being centralized. It maybe takes away from the incentive for the average user to get Wax and stake and participate in governance, which some people don't like. But at the same time, there's a very clear incentive structure for people to build things on Wax, because the way that you get into the top 21, there's no guesswork behind it. You build useful things, you get users, you attract capital to the chain, and you rise in the ranks and make more money. Whereas with something like EOS, you can say it's good because it's more decentralized, but I guess the concern that I have is sort of like, what's the incentive to build? What's the incentive to value add to the chain if you're not really certain that the people are going to notice that you added value, and you're not going to rise in the ranks, and you pretty much have to give away your money?
There's a balance. I think that there is incentive to be decent on the EOS side of things, and they've also got the EOS Network Foundation that orchestrate the software development, orchestrate the labs. I mean, you can apply for grants and that kind of stuff to build stuff. So there's a direct, you can be remunerated for building something on EOS. It's not as controlled as Wax, definitely not. Out of any of the networks, none of them are as controlled as Wax in the way that you can put effort in and get marked on it and get a direct reward for what you put in. None of the other networks are like that across any of our chains. But there are control groups. There are like grant type incentives on these various networks that do exist. So if you wanted to build something, you could get paid to do it.
Include Null says, I always thought EOS paid BPs from inflation. So I believe, Russ,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, but that is the case. The difference here is that there's like kind of a middleman that's voting for you to get into the top 21 in the first place. And when you get your inflation, you have to give 80% of it back to that middleman.
But it's not programmatic. It's not programmatic. That at the most fundamental level, the network has inflation. Block producers get paid for the blocks that they produce. Boom. You just get that's paid, and you get paid whether you're in the top 21 or the top 50 or so. You have to be over 100 EOS a day. But yes, that is inflation. However, in order for you to keep up on those ranks, you have to be voted to a certain height. You have to on that ladder, and in order to be voted, you need people to vote for you to get on that ladder. So you need support in order to even earn in the beginning, and you get that kind of support by having proxies vote for you, and those proxies vote for you based on the fact that you non-programmatically typically pay back for a percentage of the rewards that you take on a day-to-day basis. No, there's still inflation. It's low, but there's still inflation. Tokens are minted each day.
Interesting. I thought I read that too, but I guess yeah. Anyway, but I guess the barrier to entry on EOS would have different roadblocks or hurdles in terms of getting in with those proxies. But at the same time, on a technical and financial standpoint, it's probably lower because all you need is really a block producer node to be a block producer, right? Like, it's not like on Wax where you have to have a full Hyperion and freaking.
No, yeah, I know you're right. Yeah, there isn't that. You just need a block producer node. However, it's a little bit more challenging now. You need because we're going to be moving to the new consensus model, requires a little bit more organization of yourself and the other block producers to ensure that you have finalizers and a back-end kind of network that ensures that the lib actually moves forward. So you have to ensure that you have a good network, just like we got in Wax. You know how we go out of our way to ensure we have good handover, but now there's another layer. So there's actually two functions. There's a function called a finalizer and a function for a block producer. So you can't just run a node. You actually need to be pretty set up.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Wax as far as that, but yeah, we've had enough of that conversation, I think, at this point. But I do hope to see instant finality someday over here.
It's actually quite amazing. We're running it on Jungle at the moment. Jungle is obviously like any network. It doesn't just represent EOS only. It runs the Antelope type software. We've done a lot of testing even for Wax on Jungle. But the instant finality is amazing, where the actual finalized block is moving forward like every 2 blocks. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I can imagine, because you have anything that requires an oracle. I mean, you significantly cut down the time it takes to finalize, and it gives it a better UX, basically. Like, I built an alternative NFT backer on Wax a while ago, since Atomic Assets only supports the Wax token, and I think they're actually deprecating that now too. So I built an NFT backer that allows people to back with other tokens, but it could take up to almost 3 minutes for an oracle to sign off, because we're watching transactions off chain. If we had instant finality, that would be, you press burn NFT, and then 2 seconds later you can refresh the page and your tokens will be there. And anybody doing anything similar, I think that would be a much better UX.
From my perspective, I like the idea of, if something goes wrong with your infrastructure, you should be able to unregister your block producer and immediately have it unregister, rather than unregister even though your infrastructure is down and you can see you've missed your blocks for another 5 rounds.
Oh, that's something I didn't even think of. So I guess, yeah, is that why it takes so long? They're waiting for that block to finalize when you submitted the transaction or something?
So when you send it, it has to finalize, and then the schedule needs to get updated. So it typically takes like 4 or 5 rounds.
Yeah, so for people watching who don't know what we're talking about, block producers, if there's ever an issue where it's our turn to produce blocks, and for some reason something goes wrong and we fail at producing that block, we're penalized for that by the OIG. We're allowed to miss 2, I think, in the course of like 3 weeks or 2 weeks, whatever it is. So what we do is we'll have scripts on our servers, on our block producer nodes, or actually on like some other node that watches it. And if we miss a block, we will submit a transaction to unregister our node and stop producing. But there's this weird like few minute lag time between submitting that transaction and actually getting unregistered. So what happens is you end up missing more rounds, and then you get penalized and lose points and possibly even fall out of the top 21, make less money that month. So it's not fun. But I haven't had any problem. Knock on wood, I shouldn't say that.
Man, oh man. You don't say that out.
Yeah.
Say that out loud.
How do you have an opinion on the differences between like the fact that the OIG is on this chain and not on the other chain? Do you prefer one over the other?
I think I like having an OIG, because it makes it very clear, and we get directly rewarded for our effort, and we can see exactly where we stand. And nothing is more frustrating for me and the rest of the team, where we put so much effort into something and we can see that we're running an excellent service, and then another block producer could come up and get vote support where they asleep at the wheel sometimes.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
And I like it. I like the OIG. Yeah, absolutely.
I do too. I mean, like we both said, it's a very clear incentive for people to add value to the chain. People complain about it a lot too, and I do understand why, especially from an outside perspective. Like, not being a block producer, you're kind of just looking at all the BPs getting paid, and then the parachute, which is like extra money. Um, but it's like, be careful what you wish for, because if you remove that and then it's just completely decentralized, I mean, once the average person decides who the block producers are, we all know that people vote for free shit. So when you have people voting for free shit, it's like there is not really an incentive for anybody to add value. Do you know what Hive blockchain is?
Hive, yes. Yeah.
What I really like about Hive is, like, they're very decentralized, but they have, I think, a key component of the decentralization that's very important if you're going to decentralize is that they have something called the Decentralized Hive Fund, which is kind of like Wax Labs, but who gets proposals approved is basically dependent on like actual people voting with their Hive stake. I don't think you can have like a fully decentralized chain, and have everybody determine who's in the top 21 just by like voting themselves. But then the treasury funds that should be used as incentives to build on the chain, those are centralized. You have a problem there. Like, those things should be tied to each other, in my opinion.
Mm.
If you're gonna, like, you can't have a centralized incentive fund, but decentralized voting for block producers, I guess.
Mm. I suppose it all, yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Trying to run a business, often sometimes I just don't want I don't want any of that. I just want to be able to effort remuneration. I don't necessarily want votes or governance or anything, but then the crypto side of me is like, no, hey, governance is great and decentralization is great, but yeah, it can make it a little bit challenging on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all experimenting. I don't think anybody really knows the real answer. Crypto's only been out there for what, like 15 years. So, I mean, I guess we'll find out over time. Each level of centralization has its own advantages and disadvantages. But yeah, especially as somebody running a business, it's kind of important that you have some stability, especially if you have people on payroll, or even like in my case, I have myself on payroll. I run an S corp, and I'm claiming that I make X amount a year. Like, let's say I apply for a credit card or whatever the case is, and I'm like, yeah, I make this much. It's kind of weird if that changes like every single week and you can't really pay yourself a normal paycheck. And anytime you want to finance anything in life or whatever the case is, it's like you can't prove anything. It's nice to have a stable number.
Well, Wax also demands a large amount of infrastructure to run. And the fact that you've got a parachute mechanism, the fact that you know where you're standing, you know that you're going to be earning each month, makes it easy for you to invest in hardware and stuff in order to actually keep it going. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that as well. I mean, yeah, 100%. You can basically take a look at your current rank as a block producer, if you're already a block producer, that is, and kind of say, all right, here I am. I can afford to get rid of this node. Things like that. Those are things that you can't really do if everything's just completely random. Yeah. So what would you say our biggest issue is on Wax right now in terms of, or do you see any issues at all? Do you think we're growing well? And if not, then what do we need to do in order to get more attention?
Oh man, those are like a whole lot of questions there. I think that we need to have more use. We need to have people using the network more, and that in order for that to happen, we need more games. We need more building, more companies willing to invest in blockchain and NFTs. I think more product. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We need more of that. There was a time. Remember when the NFT hype first hit? That was really, really good for a network such as Wax. Very organized, got the best software. the best technology for actually running such a blockchain. And yeah, we need more of that. We need to get back to that.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, yeah, I can't argue any of those points. I just think that I don't want to say we were lucky in 2020, 2021, because obviously it's like, when you build something for a specific purpose and you're like, yeah, I know this is going to take off one day. And then one day it takes off and people are like, you're lucky because you were doing that. I mean, like, we weren't lucky. William Quigley and everybody at Wax kind of planned the blockchain because they thought that would be a big thing one day. And it worked, but that's not really the thing in this space right now, it seems like. And I think that way too many people are solely focused on NFTs. Not that there's anything wrong with them. I think one day maybe the time will come, but I think we definitely need more people who are willing to expand their horizons and think about other types of products. In my opinion, go ahead.
You know what frustrates me is the concept of an NFT, how the world does not know what an NFT is. The world thinks NFT is a picture or a video, and that's what they think an NFT is. And it always frustrated me, even from the beginning, because the whole concept of having a non-fungible token tied to an asset of any kind of asset, right, is amazing. Is amazing. Malcolm had such a brilliant way he used to talk about it, where you could use assets between different games, and those assets are not just like a photo. It's like, I've got a sword, and the sword is magical, and I've spent all this amount of effort building up the sword's power level or experience level of that sword. But I don't always use that sword in the game. So not only can it be used between different games, but because I don't always use it, I can now lease it to somebody else who could use it when they want to go and do a specific dungeon quest or whatever. Those kind of things are so brilliant. An NFT tied to like a real world asset as well. Like, maybe it's like your ownership of your bicycle is an NFT, and you could, trade that with someone else or sell it to someone. It's just what we do on Fear. Fear has an NFT for basically the domain name for your account. So it's almost like an identity, which is the actual NFT itself, and you own it. All those kind of things can be expanded on. It just like can be built on to be such amazing stuff. If people could understand and demand it from companies that are building products.
Yeah, that's exactly what I used to try to explain to people when I was in some smaller groups in like 2020, 2021, and the NFT cycle started taking off. I was in some projects that were more traditional cryptos, I guess, and some of the friends that I made in there would always be like, Mike, I don't get what's going on with NFTs. Like, why do these pictures worth so much money and whatnot? And I was like, that's one thing, but that's only one use case. Like, to me, that's not what an NFT is. It's exactly what you said. It's one day being able to prove that you own this house and transfer it to somebody in a trustless manner and not have to go through all this crap. And it's the real one.
Maybe the bureaucracy of governments would try and stop that from happening. They want to have your stamp duty and middlemen and transfers of your house. Those kind of things. There's whole businesses and groups of government employees that do that.
Yeah, especially
you can't fast track it.
Especially in the United States, it's they're like stifling innovation so much here. It sucks to see.
Yeah.
Crypto Short said one massive corporation to use Wax NFTs or NTTs as ticketing, emphasis on the benefits and savings of potential corporations could save by using NFTs. So here's my issue with that. I don't disagree with you, but the thing that I keep saying is that savings of cost, they only matter if there's equal amount of money to be made here as there is somewhere else. So if they can come here and they can save, I don't know, $100,000 a year on their costs, and their upside is $50 because there's no users here, they don't care. They'd rather not save the 100,000 a year and go make $10 million on Ethereum because that's where all the money and users are. So while I agree with you, I think the first step for that to even matter is to get people here in the first place. I don't think the big brand comes first, because when they do come first, they leave when the money dries up, like Tops did, and basically everybody else that was here in 2021. But it's also proof that once you do get one brand here and some actual money and users here, the other ones will follow, because I bet the first one was the hardest to get. But after Wax started taking off and there was money here and activity here, other brands started showing up, and it wasn't probably as hard of a sell.
You know what is great is that the technology we have can scale to whatever is thrown at it. Where you look at other networks, they're always trying to do some kind of other layer on top of it in order to solve their scalability issues. Wax can easily take, thousands of transactions a second, millions and millions of actions a day, no problem.
Yeah, transactions for sure. One problem that we are having is RAM, though. So the amount of users that we can support right now is sort of an issue.
There are ways around it. It depends how much of an issue it is. How much of an issue it becomes, right?
I don't know if it's even necessarily an issue in terms of the blockchain not being able to handle X amount of users. I think it's being able to handle X amount of users who might not pay to set up their account. Like, that's why we had to put the cloud wallet fee there. I don't think it's necessarily a problem for us to grow to, billions of users or whatever. I mean, I might be wrong, actually. I don't know if we can scale that big, but I don't think it would be a problem as long as those people are paying for their account. But we can't seem to support it for free right now, which is why the cloud wallet fee is there.
Yeah. I personally don't have an issue paying for an account. I think.
Yeah. I don't either.
You're getting a piece of real estate on the actual network itself, piece of RAM.
I don't have an issue with it either. I just think when there's all these other chains out there who don't have that requirement, it's very tough to convince, especially like the average person who's not so familiar with crypto, to jump through all these hoops. It's just basically a barrier. I mean, you're a tech guy, and sure, you've built plenty of websites and stuff like that. And like, one of the key components to a good UI is like call to action with zero barriers in the way. Like, the more things someone has to do, the less chance you have of converting them to a user. So
yeah. Well, then, yeah.
I know it's tough because no one really knows the answer, right? But yeah, I mean, I got all day. I don't know how much time you have. Is there anything you wanted to talk about that you're building or anything like that? Or
well, we've been building our heads up platform, the monitoring alerts. I don't know if you've given it a go yet.
I've taken a look at it. I don't think I've actually used it.
I actually need to make a video of how to set it up. I usually just talk to people about how to set it up. But essentially, you can monitor your Wax software, which is Nodius, and Hyperion and Atomic Assets. And it's just basically a Docker container that you spin up inside of your own data center. And you can get statistics and alerts set for all of the functions that you would be providing to your users and keeping the network healthy. You could obviously do all this yourself by setting up Grafana and Zabbix and all sorts of scripts and that. But that can take a lot of time. This will take 30 minutes, and you can get full-on monitoring alerts from like the application level of the blockchain itself, which is awesome. I've wanted a tool like this since we first launched on EOS, and now we've got our own tool that we ended up building and providing it to the community for free. So it's definitely more of a provider type tool, So if you were running an application, you've got your own ship nodes and Node.js nodes, this would be cool for you to just keep on top to ensure that everything is healthy.
So this is sort of like all the little things that we have to do as block producers or API providers, like all these little scripts that we have to run, and everyone's got to make their own. You're pretty much building like a WordPress type of deal for that, just a drag and drop kind of. I want alerts about this. I want to know if my block producer stops producing. Is that pretty much it? You mentioned something about activity on the chain directly, or is that like traffic stats type of stuff in terms of what actions get?
No. Okay. So what it does is it polls your nodes and then builds its own little database of information that you can be able to see from it, and alert if things go out of threshold that you've set. So it looks like it presents to you as a web page, but the alerts would come on that page through email, Slack, Telegram, if you want. That's the real benefit of it, is getting the alerts when things go awry.
Yeah, that's one of the worst parts about being a block producer is, I mean, we all have our own way of monitoring our stuff, but essentially, like, most of us have Telegram alerts. I have a web page that I built, which is ugly and stupid, but it basically just has a list of my nodes, how recent the last block on that node is, to make sure it's like up to date and stuff. And
yeah. So you can do that. You definitely need it now. You definitely need to give it a go.
Yeah, I have to play around with it because nobody wants to be sitting in front of a screen. I mean, if you have something that's critical, like, it's very nice if you're asleep or something and you just get some loud sound that's like, your node's down right now, like, get up and go fix it. It's a lot better than having it down for hours and then waking up in the morning and seeing like, oh shit, this has been down for like 7 hours.
Yeah, I know. Some of the other networks where there isn't an ORG, and the incentive to ensure your stuff is working 100%, I want them to use the tool as well, right? So, sometimes a block producer will go off, which will leave like a 6-second hole in the round, and these guys would let it run for like the whole day. I'm like, oh man. So when you're not producing, my alerts are going off. You need to get your house in order.
Yeah, that's one thing that is definitely great about having the OIG. I know some people don't agree with the strict requirements, which in my opinion aren't really, I wouldn't say they're that strict anyway. 99%, 99.5% uptime is pretty, I mean, if you're providing a crucial service, I think that's pretty much the de facto standard out there, right?
Yeah. I mean, I always felt like you're getting paid for doing a service. You need to provide the service.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no room for PCs in the corner of your office running your block producer. You need to have like enterprise quality power and aircon uptime.
Fully agree, man. I guess we could probably wrap it up in a second, unless you have any final thoughts for us.
Include Noel was actually right. The EOS inflation has stopped. They minted a whole lot of tokens, and at the moment, the block producers are getting paid from that pool of tokens. But there are fees that the network gets when RAM is bought and sold, and a few other places, and that's where it comes from. EOS also doesn't have like millions of tokens like Wax does. Like just the scale of it. The EOS tokens are, the block producers only earn, even when you're top 21, typically you only earn, I think it's like 1,200 a day. So it isn't like you're earning 20,000 a day. You know what I mean? So it's kept a little bit low. But yeah, it's definitely an experiment about how you keep these chains going indefinitely, with people providing and companies providing services and users engaging with that network. So, token economics, man. I'm a guy that like listens to people talk about it, and I definitely don't have like this is the way things need to be. Like I don't have like a hard method that I know would be. Oh, why don't we all just do it like this? You know, they're all a little bit different depending on what networks they are. Um, I think my biggest thing is just ensuring users use products that are being built on these networks. And I think that's probably my biggest hope for all of these kind of antelope-based networks. Yeah, which I still think is the best software out there, even with its challenges with RAM and remuneration and that kind of stuff.
I do agree that it's very close to the best, or possibly the best. I just think the couple of issues that it has that might seem minor are, in my opinion, a major roadblock for a lot of people. But I think they could be solved in some form or another. I just know that, like, for me, I'm not the guy for that. I'm the type of person that likes to solve problems and not complain, but I also know the limitations to my own skills. So when it comes to something like creating a better wallet experience for people to sign up to the chain, like, I'll leave that to Graymass. I believe they're working on a MetaMask plugin, which I think will be huge. But again, I don't know what that's actually going to look like. But if it's to the point where you could sign up with like your Ethereum public key and not have to do anything else regarding like knowing about names and things like that, I think that would be like a fantastic step in the right direction.
Something that I quite like on one of the networks we run on Fear, where you have a concept of a name that represents all of your accounts, and the name is like Ross at Eosphere, and has a concept of requesting, like just from like the sort of basic layer. You want to send tokens around, you want to send Bitcoin to me. I can send you a request. So it's from me, from Ross at Eosphere, and I'll send it to Mark, and I'll say, please, can you send me, 1 Bitcoin? And that request, you basically just reply to that request and send it to me. So there's not like you had to remember this, long string of hexadecimal numbers, or a long string of characters. It's to like a human name, it's like a human identity, and they apply that inside of these wallets, like Edge Wallet that's got it nicely baked inside of it, where you can bind your Ethereum, bind your Bitcoin all through to a name, an identity, and that's pretty cool. That definitely removes a lot of that barrier, because heaven knows we've all sent stuff to wrong addresses before. The Antelope technology is kind of cool in that way, because it's still a name, and if the name is not right, you won't go. However, that also opens up another issue, which is people with little honeypot names, where you could accidentally send to somebody who's posing as somebody else, because of how that you spelt it, because of fumbling. But that's why I like the idea of having an identity that I can request a payment directly from you. So there's it gets rid of that fumbling middle bit.
Yeah, I definitely like the idea of more easily rememberable names. I do like Antelope in that regard. For me, it's less about the transaction process and more about the sign up process in the first place. I guess that's the issue for me. Like,
yeah, it's always been that though. Hey?
Yeah, I wish there was a way, and I hopefully Graymass is solving this. I just don't know what their MetaMask implementation is going to look like. But there was a way where you had MetaMask already or some other wallet, which most people do, and they're using some EVM network, which has a public key. If they were able to just somehow use that public key and just magically like have an account on Wax, to me, that's the ideal scenario. But to be fair, like, it's easy to criticize now, but as I was mentioning the other day, this was not clear back in 2017, 2018. I mean, every wallet back then was some obscure, self-hosted wallet. Like, you downloaded a program off the internet like Anchor, and each one kind of had their own different public and private key structure and whatnot. So I can't blame EOS for that decision at this point. But 6 or 7 years later, it seems pretty clear that it would be ideal if your public key somehow meant that you had a wallet. Just in terms of a UX standpoint for users to sign up.
Do you like the cloud wallet, the Wax cloud wallet?
I do like it. It's just I mean, they're also implementing bridges and two, so it's kind of making it better. It's just the fee is the biggest challenge. And like, to be clear, I'm not being one of those people who like is pointing at Wax and complaining about it. I fully understand why that 5 Wax fee is there right now. And I don't know if there's really any way around it. I know they're working on some slim account thing or whatever that's supposed to make it easier to scale. But
yeah, a lot of accounts, yeah.
What about you? Do you like the cloud wallet?
Yeah, it's good. I think the trickiness is that you always have to have another wallet. Like, so you got a wallet and a wallet. I think some people get confused with that. Anchor's really good, and you can actually do quite a bit of functionality inside of Anchor Wallet itself. MetaMask, I think it's really clunky. Maybe when people want to like burn me at the stake for saying it, but the plugin that you have inside of your Chrome or whatever, it's hard to see what's going on sometimes. Like where Anchor to me is very clear. I can see exactly what's going on. Maybe it's just because I've been using it so long. But like MetaMask, like when you want to engage, sign something on Ethereum, all these things come up. I don't know what it's asking for. Typically you just go next. Did you actually read what you're trying to do there? But I think Anchor as a self-standing wallet is actually really good. And I suppose the other thing is that Anchor is not so much a wallet, but it's an interface with your keys and that you engage with your wallet, which exists on chain. I think it's difficult to explain to new people about how it works sometimes. But I think from like at face value, Anchor looks clean and it's there.
I definitely like Anchor, and I agree that MetaMask sucks. I actually use Rabbi Wallet, which is something like MetaMask but a lot cleaner. Which is so much more intuitive. It tells you all these things about like risk factor of what contract you're interacting with, and just you're able to switch chains a lot more easily than it's so much better than MetaMask in my opinion. But yeah, I guess, yeah, I don't know. I know I'm probably beating a dead horse at this point, but to me, the biggest issue is just for a new user, even if they had to download a wallet, it's fine. It's like, just download this wallet. Where they run into the issue is like, you have to generate this public and private key pair, but you still don't have a wallet. Next, you need this name, and to get a name, you need like another wallet to create the name. And so here's resources. You have your computer has like all these different parts to it. Well, that's how resources work on Wax. It's most people are used to just like connect their hardware wallet or just generate a seed phrase, and they automatically just have a wallet. They send gas to it, and the gas token is also the network token. So it's just simple. It's done at that point.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't know.
I don't mean to complain. I'm more trying to think about solutions. But yeah, I know some things are out of my wheelhouse, so it's tough because it's like, how it is. You're I don't know if developer is the right word, but obviously like a problem solver. You're a businessman, so it's like, it sucks when you get to a point where you identify a problem, but you also know like this isn't really the problem that you can solve.
I was just thinking that you come at it because you're a developer, Mark. I'm actually not a developer. I'm actually a network engineer. So you would say that I'm more like a technical kind of guy, and we look at it from two different sides. Like you looking at building something, reducing the friction for the users, and this is what I want to build. And like often I get stuck in, okay, how am I going to run it?
Yeah, I guess that is kind of two different perspectives. But hey, man, it is what it is, I guess. For now, all we can do is just keep doing what we do. I'm trying to focus more on the DeFi side of things these days.
Yeah, you said you're going to give an update on WaxFusion. I'm
Oh,
using it personally.
are you? That's awesome. How are you
Yeah,
liking it so far?
I think it's amazing that you've cooked this up. You know, this kind of functionality, you typically, from my perspective, would have come from an organization. Like I would have thought like the Wax group would have actually pushed something like this forward. I mean, we had a few clever ways for staking and stuff over the years, but this is really really cool. I think maybe UX could be updated a little bit. You know, like to make it a little bit easier to see what's actually going on. But I think absolute kudos to you, man. This is awesome.
I really appreciate that, and I agree about the UX. I mean, that's pretty much the disclaimer whenever you're dealing with anything that I built is just don't expect the greatest UX. Just because I'm not that good at it. I didn't have much funding for this either, so yeah, I couldn't really like hire somebody to do it, but I would love to in the future. But yeah, we're 25 or 26 days in now. We have 6.05 million wax in TVL, which is pretty awesome. I just checked earlier, and we have around 420 via 420 unique users and like over 500 LS wax holders. And the LS wax conversion rate right now is 1.0329 wax, which means since it started at 1-to-1 26 days ago, basically we generated 3.29% for LS wax holders in 26 days. When you compare that to the 8.3 or whatever it is that you would get from the system over the course of a year, you could see that you would get that in less than 3 months here, basically. Obviously, we can't guarantee that the same rate's going to go on forever, but that's what we did so far. The CPU rental side of it has picked up like crazy. We have millions of wax come in on a certain day once in a while, and it's just like gone instantly. CPU rentals. So, yeah, I have some optimizations to make, but we're not there yet. The original design was really well thought out. It's just one of those things that had to get out into the wild and monitor things day to day and kind of look at it in action and say, okay, we need to make this small adjustment now, and this will make this better, and just polish it up over time. But we're definitely getting there.
Very cool.
Yeah. And plus, there's the other side of it. You got that 3.29% in 26 days, but that whole time you also had liquid tokens if you got LS wax. So maybe you went and provided liquidity with that and you earned another, I don't know, couple percent or whatever. So it can be really lucrative, but I think we just need to get it more exposure and attention. We're at this weird stage again. It's like, I know I'm expecting too much too fast. Like I'm like disappointed that we only have 6 million wax in TVL in 26 days. But like, I just feel like I'm at this stage mentally where I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, we did it again. We captured all the users on wax, and now there's nothing left to do unless we get outside of the chain. So I'm trying to think about how to get outside of wax and attract more people at this point.
Yeah.
I'm also probably wrong, but you know.
Yeah.
I guess the original week or two or whatever, just watching it go up by 1 million and then up by like another 2 million. It's just like, damn, we only got 300,000 more this week. That sucks. It's probably unreasonable on my end. Anchor Wallet is super clean UI, but has that infamous problem with many. Yeah, you'll end up with a bunch of processes running on your computer. I thought they pushed an updated for it, but I don't know. It can also be a real pain if you have a lot of wallets connected to a key, or just like a lot of wallets in Anchor in general. But like if you ever try to import, let's say you create a new account on the chain and then you go to import it in Anchor and you do like load automatically or scan for accounts or whatever. Well, if one of your keys has like 200 accounts tied to it, good luck with that. You'll be waiting an hour probably just for Anchor to stop freezing up. But aside from that, I mean, you can't really blame them for that. It's, I mean, kind of limitations of software we're dealing with. But Greymask does so much for the chain. I don't know where Wax would be or EOS really without them.
Yeah, all the Antelope networks that use Anchor. I remember it was Scatter before, which was Nathan James built that. And that also worked pretty well. But Anchor was like the upgrade of it, like it made it a lot more slick.
Yeah, I think I still have a Scatter wallet on my computer. So, yeah, actually I do. It's right next to Anchor. I've only used it like once though. If I remember correctly, I want to say that the Wombat wallet is somehow like a fork of Scatter, or maybe include No Nos.
I haven't actually used the Wombat wallet. I know about it. They were offering free EOS accounts at one point. People were using it.
Wombat uses Scatter protocol. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I haven't used it either. I went to their website one time and went to download it, and it was just like, this is such a pain. I don't know why. If it was like something that was actually wrong with the wallet, or if it was just me being an idiot, but I just remember giving up on it pretty quick. How much longer would you guys be willing to wait for the Wax blockchain to pick up steam? Is there a time period where things are too far gone? Well, if we get to the point where that treasury wallet that gives the parachute payout starts getting really, really low, and it looks like there's only a couple months of runway left before block producers are not going to earn as much as they do now, then I would feel like that. But if I look at it right now, let me see. I mean, this is just one wallet. There are multiple different ones, but the ESAO.saving wallet has about $5 million in it right now. Block producers, the top 21, $12,000 a month, $252,000. I'm like Rain Man over here. But I guess that's enough to cover a good year at these, or two at these current prices. But that's also in Wax tokens. So the more the price goes down, I'm comfortable until I see that get to a scary point.
Yeah. And things turn. When things do turn, they turn quick. And there's a lot more institutional investment happening in cryptocurrency now. We're just all kind of waiting for the next proper bull run. And I think if it happens with Bitcoin, typically it brings everything along with it. And Wax is a veteran, solid blockchain. It's not just like a meme coin that doesn't do anything. I think that when investment comes in, it'll pull it, and Wax will be one of the tokens that goes with it. I honestly believe that. So I actually thought that we would have been pushing a little bit better this time. By this time this year, I thought August was going to be the month. But when it turns quick, and everything comes along with it, and the quality networks that get boosted better, get boosted the best.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's been rough, but there's not really anything we can do about it but keep trying to build whatever we feel is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't stopped building stuff. Things are still happening. Even in the coldest of winters, things are still being built. So when the market turns, everything should be really positive for Wax, I reckon.
As long as we get ourselves some more exposure, which is another thing I've really been trying to focus on lately. Like sites like DeFi Llama, for example. I don't know if you're familiar, but I've been kind of making an initiative for myself to go on there. Wax has had like zero presence on that website. And this is the website that everybody goes to find like new projects to invest in and things like that.
Okay.
So I've been contacting basically every project that I know of on Wax and getting the information I need and then listing it on that website. I'm not suggesting that this simple initiative is going to save the chain, but it's a start. And it's like the power of habits, you know, you do all these little things and over time, all of a sudden they start compounding each other, and it's not really clear which thing actually made the difference. But one day they kind of just take off altogether at once. I'm sort of hoping that that's what's going to happen. You know, there are some other sites like that that are a little bit more difficult because Wax having such different technology makes it hard to integrate in certain places. But I think we all, like any of us actually running a more product-based guild, I guess, like as opposed to more service-related like you guys. Those of us who have a product that's supposed to be like a flagship, like a Wax DAO or WaxFusion or something like that, like we need to stop thinking so much about capturing Wax's market share and creating more tools on Wax, and we need to start thinking more about how can I get people outside of Wax to see this? Like, can I get my token on CoinGecko for starters and things like that? Those are extremely important. We have no presence anywhere. And if we talk about mass adoption and things like that, you know, it's you're talking about average users all over the world. Those people are not deep in the trenches looking at the Wax blockchain. They're scrolling through CoinMarketCap or DeFi Llama or whatever other sites, you know. So
yeah, no, you're right.
We need to be on those sites. It's easier said than done, but if price of WaxP and other tokens are so volatile, do you think that it makes sense for the average person to seek profit from just holding tokens alone, not being a trade? Well, what makes sense and what people do isn't always in line with each other. I would say most people don't really want to be that active. I mean, anybody who's ever asked me in real life, let's say you go to a Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, and your family's like, yeah, I heard that Bitcoin thing said, what is it, 60 grand now? Like, how do I get some? You think that person's trying to buy NFTs and come and get involved in liquid staking platforms and crap? That they want to know how to click the button and get Bitcoin and just relax for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, a good game, a game that this is the only place that you can play it. That will definitely bring people, and that'll definitely be a boost for the token economics.
Absolutely. Really, all it takes is one good big product. It's you know, we have that chicken and egg conversation all the time. I've heard it like a million times on the block producer calls, the roundtables every week, and it's like, well, which thing do we need first? Do we need the big brand or do we need the users and the money? And it's like, well, I know that if a big brand did come here first, if it happened to happen, then yeah, the users would follow, assuming that big brand already had a massive following. But I don't think that's how it plays out. I think we need to get people here first, and then those brands will all be chasing us, because when they sit down and they have their little corporate meetings and they're talking about like, yeah, how can we get involved in this blockchain space and make some money? Like, I heard this thing's going up. They're going to say, oh, where's the money right now? What's on that chain? Let's go there. So if we can offer that, it makes it a lot easier to get a brand like that to come in the first place. Because if they're coming first and they do have the big following, you're basically expecting them to come here and bring their users to us for what benefit, you know? The technology is good, yeah, but I mean, the UX for their users is going to be a lot worse from going from a Web 2 game to anything integrated with the blockchain.
Do you know much of what's going on the Ultra blockchain network?
Not so much. I've looked it up before. I almost thought about getting some, but no, I don't really know.
So Ubisoft are like an investor in there, they've only got like 5 or 6 block producers, you know, I think if they were successful, I mean, that's using Antelope software, right? If they were successful, that would also have a knock-on positive effect for everybody as well. But like you talk about like a game and a AAA title, Ubisoft is they produce AAA titles, right? And they invested in it, so presumably they're going to have some kind of marketplace. I think. I don't know too much about it, so I'm just sort of just speaking top of my head. Yeah, like they've got like a Steam kind of Uplay type thing that would be run on top of Ultra Network. So it could be cool. If they're successful, then it'll definitely be positive for us.
Yeah, I think any Antelope chain being successful would help all of them, but I guess I'm feeling a little beat down at this.
Well, I'm optimistic about, we're going to be moving on the EOS network. We're going to be moving through to the new consensus model called Savannah, with instant finality and stuff. And if that is something that excites various industries, it could be a nice injection of positivity for Antelope networks. So I'm optimistic about that, and we're going to deploy that on the 25th of September. Oh, it's the 1st of September today, so this month.
Oh, well, no, it's August 31st. In the real time zone. So. Ubisoft have their fingers in a lot of block pies, Ultra, Tezos, and Oasis. I didn't know that. Honestly, I don't know much about Ubisoft. Like, whenever people talk about game stuff, I'm just a complete idiot. Like, you mentioned like Steam and whatever else you mentioned. I'm like, yeah, I've heard of that a bunch of times in the context of gaming, but like I don't know what the hell Steam is.
Yeah, it's a marketplace.
Gotcha. And people trade, I guess, like game assets. Is that what it is, or
no marketplace for like buying games and playing them on a PC. They've also got their own little thing called a Steam Deck, which is like a handheld where you can play all those same Steam games. They're quite innovative in getting like a unified platform that runs on Linux to run all of the AAA titles.
So they're kind of like what we kind of want to be, I guess, almost like a software that's integrated at a hardware level that everybody has. And you're using Steam, even if you don't actually like go out of your way to get Steam. Like you just want a console to play stuff, and Steam's the thing you go through.
Yeah, it's a digital marketplace for your game, so you don't have to buy the physical copy. You just you buy it and you actually own it. You own that game, and you log in with your Steam account and play it. It also works on Mac. Some games work on Mac as well, but mainly PC. Yeah, and that's it. If it's not on Steam, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Oh, so that software company supports Mac, huh? Interesting. I know one that doesn't, or stopped supporting Mac at one point, and making it difficult for people like me. I'm talking about the what's it called? I always come up with the wrong word here. Not the CLI. What's it called? The stuff underneath CLES.
What?
I'm blanking out here. I don't know.
But Cleos.
Yeah, but like the three-letter term. The 3-letter term for the thing underneath it. Not CLI. It's CDT. The CDT. I always blank out on.
Okay.
Yeah, they like stopped supporting Mac, but it is what it is. There's still ways around it. I'm just on an old version right now, so
I run it on my Mac and I use Multipass. Wow, that is such a cool program.
It's called, what is it called?
Multipass. So you run Multipass. It's like a virtualization layer that you run just off your Mac command line. Very, very cool. Go check it out. Oh, it's brilliant. And basically you can run any version of Ubuntu you want. And when you're compiling stuff, it's like native inside of Multipass.
So you said from the command line, so it's not even like an interface, like a virtual machine where you're like looking at the whole.
No, just in the command line. Yeah, because that's what you want, right? You want to run Cleos from your terminal, like you used to be able to. Yeah. So just install Multipass. Check it out. It's Multipass, like from like Fifth Element. Multipass.
Yeah, I have to look into that. That's awesome. I know stuff like that
Yeah.
exists. It's just every time I go to download or like look into something, I click a couple buttons and I'm like, man, this isn't worth all this hassle. I'll just
No, dude,
forget.
I know. Yeah, it's when it went to the M chips as well, it just made everything tricky to work natively. And that's what I love about Windows is you've got the Windows Ubuntu shell. What's it called? Yeah, and that's like awesome. That's one of the main reasons why Windows is like really really functional. But yeah, multipass made it such a difference to me.
Very interesting. I appreciate that. I'm gonna have to look into it after this.
I only discovered it about 6 months ago, so I went there out of necessity.
Lilu
See,
Dallas
Fifth Element.
Lilu Dallas Multipass. I don't know if this is the actual name of it or it just sounds like he's trying to rhyme some song
No,
or something. Like a
no, it's from the Fifth Element, the movie.
I don't know what that is.
The girl's name was Lilu, and the taxi driver Bruce Willis, his name was Dallas, and multipass is what they use. It's like a universal pass that they use in that world.
It's the hot ass babe from the Fifth Element. Cool. I'll have to check this out then. I don't watch too much movies.
I feel like you have been disconnected from society. That you don't know what Steam is, and you didn't know about the Fifth Element.
I don't get out of the house much, guys. I have a confession to make. That's the life of a developer. A hyper-focused developer with like ADD, or I don't know if I'm like bipolar or something. I just get laser focused on one thing for like months and months, which like would be work for a while. And then once I get to a point where I'm burnt out, I'm like, oh crap, I let my body, I'm all scrawny now. I got to go back to the gym. So then I'll go to the gym every day and like eat all day long to try and get bigger and not do any work whatsoever for like 3 months. And then the cycle repeats. It's not good. It's not good. Yeah. I'm sort of in the middle right now. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm trying to work, but like the focus just isn't there. I'm burnt out.
You burnt out after the OIG submission. The end of the month.
Oh yeah. Well, it was even before that. It's been a few weeks now. It's after I launched WaxFusion, really, because it took me like 6 months to finish that. So much auditing and writing unit tests and just constantly refactoring everything while also working on other stuff. And then once it got to the point where it launched, it was just like, I gotta lay back. And then I just kind of burnt out.
Yeah. Well, you did good. You did good, man.
Thank you. The gym and code, some people wish they could do only those two. Yeah, but that's the thing. I can't do only those two. I can only do one of them. And if I do one, I can't do the other. I wish I could do both of them like on the same day and actually commit to both of them, you know? It's just my mind gets so like fixated on things. So I have to be passionate about something and actually in order to actually like push myself to do it, I guess. So if my mind is in like fitness mode, there's really just no off switch to turn it into like, oh, okay, now I can sit down and think about coding for 8 hours. It just doesn't work.
All right.
Anything else, sir?
Thanks for having me on, Mike. It was great to catch up.
Yeah, anytime, man. I appreciate you making this work within your schedule.
Yeah, tough. No problem, man.
But you're welcome back on anytime and keep in touch. And for everyone watching, next week I'm going to have Manis from a bunch of different things, WaxP.tools and whatnot. But he's going to be talking about his lending and derivatives protocol. That'll be next Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So I will see you guys next week. Thanks for joining and take care.